Last lesson for topic 14 here, finding an area and circumference when given the other. Okay, we know our formulas. We've got circumference is 2 pi r, 2 times pi times the radius, and area is pi r squared, or we describe that as pi times the radius times the radius. It is easier to use the circumference formula that has the radius in it because both formulas deal with radius, whereas if you use the diameter, you're going to have to do some more work in there. All right, so I know my circumference here. I know the circumference C, so circumference is 2 pi r. I know my C equals 28.26. I'm going to plug that in. Equals 2 times, we know pi is 3.14 times the radius. Now, what I can do here, my goal is to get the variable by itself. Well, to do that, I need to get rid of this part right here. I need to get rid of these numbers. Well, to do that, what I can do is combine them. Those are like terms. I can multiply those. 2 times 3.14 is going to give me 6.28. If you can't do that in your head, feel free to type that into a calculator. So what we really know here is that 28.26 equals that 6.28 times the radius. Well, what do I do here? I got to get r by itself. What's happening? It's multiplying, so I know that I'm going to do the opposite. Okay, we're doing the opposite to get r by itself. Okay, well, I'm going to divide by 6.28. Okay, what I do to the right, I got to do to the left. So I'm going to divide by 6.28. Well, from there, I have truly no idea what that is off the top of my head. So 28.26 divided by 6.28 on the calculator gives me a radius of 4.5. Okay, remember r stands for the radius there. So we know that it's going to be 4.5. Well, now that we've solved what the radius is, I can then go back and plug that into our area formula, because we know that area equals pi times the radius times the radius. Well, pi is 3.14. The radius is 4.5 times the radius again, which is another 4.5. And from here, that's just a matter of plug that into the calculator. 3.14 times 4.5 times 4.5. And I get 63.585. Now, that is our area. That is what A equals. We do have to label it, and we have to label it correctly. I see centimeters on our label for circumference. That's centimeters. This is area, so it's squared. When I go to type that answer in, I type in 63.585 space centimeters caret 2. Okay, and that's all you're doing. You're just working backwards to find the radius from the given information, and then we can use it in the other formula. Okay, so that's circumference to area. Now we're going to work backwards here from area to circumference. So I know that area is pi r squared, which is pi times the radius times the radius. So my area, my A, is 113.04 equals pi is 3.14 times the radius times the radius. Okay, so this is where you guys will be learning a little bit of something new. Okay, well, first off, writing times the radius here, like you guys are probably going to be used to at this point, is actually not the best way we want to do it. What we really want to do is actually not use this one. We want to use this pi r squared. Okay, so instead of this, I want 3.14 r squared. Okay, so 113.04 equals, my area equals 3.14 radius squared, and you'll see why here in just a minute. Well, my goal is to get the variable by itself. It's currently multiplying. I need to do the opposite. I'm going to divide. What I do on one side, I do on the other. So we're getting rid of this 3.14 in front of it. Divide both sides by it. Okay, well, what happens when I do the opposite? Those cancel, leaving me with my variable, which is this r squared, equals 113 3.04 divided by 3.14, which gave me 36. Now from here, this is the step that you probably just don't know. I need to get r by itself. It is actually not by itself yet. Okay, we have r times r. What I do to get rid of this squared is I do the opposite. Well, the opposite of a square, okay, so opposite of squared is a square root. Okay, opposite of a square is a square root. And if you've seen it on your calculators, it looks like this. Okay, so in this case, to get rid of that squared, we take a square root. That cancels out, leaving me with an r. Okay, square root cancels a square. Well, what I do on the right, I have to do on the left. I need to take a square root of 36. Well, what is a square root? Square roots are, as simply said, what number times itself equals that number. So I'm asking what number times itself, these have to be the same number, equals 36. Okay, what number? Well, I know off the top of my head that 6 times 6 is 36, so I know the answer is going to be 6. If you don't know that off the top of your head, though, all you do is you go to your calculator and you type in square root of 36. Okay, and that tells me that my radius is 6 in this case. Okay, if the square root part doesn't quite make sense to you or you need it explained a little better, feel free to come up in person and ask, and we can walk you through it, how to type it into the calculator to make sure you know what you're doing. All right, well, that's my radius. Now I can use my radius to go find the circumference, which is the actual question here, right? I'm not done yet. So now I'm going to change colors here. I'm going to go to my circumference, which is 2 pi r. Again, I want to use the radius formula here because I know what the radius is. 2 pi r, so that's 2 times 3.14 times my radius of 6. And then I go and I type that into the calculator. 2 times 3.14 times 6 gives me 37.68. Our label, we got to make sure we label it correctly here. I see yards squared for the area. Remember, circumference is just a distance. It's how far is it. So it is just going to be yards. And that would be our final answer. Okay, so do your best. Ask questions. If it doesn't quite make sense to you, there is nothing wrong with asking those questions. If you need to rewatch the video, rewind, pause, slow down, whatever you need to do whatever is going to help you be successful.